man's world, whatever that means.
In what ways do you feel connected to your African heritage?
Setting the record straight about men's mental health.
When I drive past brothers on the street that are homeless, I say, that's me, that's us.
To plant trees that other people are going to be able to enjoy the shade from.
Organizing events that spark the Africans.
Meeting on this platform is part of bridging that gap.
A man's world with Christopher Oji Darkins.
Welcome to It's a Man's World, whatever that means. I'm Christopher O.G. Darkins, your host, Chief Justice for Y'all Life Nation, and Chairman of the Invictus Foundation. On these episodes, we're going to talk about bridging the transatlantic divide, how to create connectivity between Africans who have been forcibly displaced and lodged in the Americas, and those who are still on the continent and have held it together for such a long time. In these next two episodes, we're going to talk about the issues that affect the relationship, create economic opportunities, and bridging those gaps that allow us to build a more prosperous and powerful Africa, collectively, a homeland for us all. Let's get to these next two episodes. Let's engage in a dialogue and a conversation, and let's come out with solutions. Because if it's a man's world, this is what men are supposed to do.
I'd like to thank you all for joining It's a Man's World. Whatever that means is the name of the show, and whatever that means is exactly the tagline. You know, we have for quite some time as men in this world said it's a man's world, but have not done anything noticeable to defend that position. I posit now that is the time for men to come together and demonstrate leadership by identifying issues that we have in our community as global Africans. And I say global Africans because a lot of times we characterize ourselves as African American, Rwandans, Kenyans, Caribbeans, but you know, we all hail from the African continent, and we all need to identify the solutions that affect us on a global level that allow us to unify and bring towards solutions that kind of benefit the entire African community. So I've asked a number of friends and colleagues to jump on this conference with me so that we can begin discussing some of the challenges that we face as a global African community. And as the title says, it's a man's world, so it's time for us to pick up the mantle of leadership in identifying these issues, providing solutions, and going about the hard work of solving the problems that we face globally. In line with the outline that was presented, I would like to give everyone an opportunity to briefly introduce themselves. And then we're going to talk through some of the questions that were asked, each one of you, to contemplate and think about how you feel about it and your experiences in life. Just to give you a background on myself, all of you know, but for the viewers out there, my name is Christopher O.G. Darkins, born in the Americas. Have been traveling back and forth between the Americas and Africa for the last 20 years. Have been in everything from European finance to gold mining in different parts of the continent here in Africa. Currently stationed in Kigali, Rwanda, where I am the chairman of the Invictus Foundation and the chief information officer for Invictus Security Interest, as well as the chief justice for Y'all Life Nation. I've asked these guys to come together, and I'll give them an opportunity now to talk a little about themselves. And Ricardo, we'll start with you.
Ricardo Johnson. I live in University Park, Texas, in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. I am a proud father of 3 daughters and a son. I am the CEO and founder of Muse Health, the CEO of R2 Business Development Group, and the CEO and founder of R2 Global Supply. All of them are in healthcare. I have 30 plus years in healthcare in the US and globally. And I, among the other things I'm super proud of, I'm Chris O.G. Darkins' dear friend.
Check is certainly in the mail. Just real quick, Ricardo. Have you ever been to Africa? Had any interactions with business on the African continent?
I have had extensive business on the continent, but I have never been to the motherland. No.
Awesome. Next, we will allow Virete Kuyabihiro to introduce himself, and he will actually connect my pronunciation of his name.
Thank you very much. I hope you can hear me. I'm by names of Chubairo Karangwa Verite, but whatever the pronunciation, whatever it is fine. I'm a fourth-year medical student at the University of Rwanda. I'm a youth leader, and I'm currently the vice president of our Medical Students Association in Rwanda. I serve
One of the challenges we have in remote areas on the continent, not in all areas, but in remote areas, is connectivity. And it looks like Virete got the bug. So we will jump to Mr. Phillips and allow him to introduce himself.
Hello, I go by Kenzaya Styles. I'm here in Houston, Texas, and study of anthropology, and just the science of people, nature, and just how we relate from our past, from our historical, standpoint. I've been in the Air Force for 20 years, so I'm a retired veteran of the Air Force. Good friend of Chris. And I've been to the African continent one time last year. I was blessed to be able to travel to Africa and connect with the people and spend like 3 weeks there. And I loved it. Absolutely loved it. So it changed my life. Just in my studies and my learnings, I have a lot of, questions that I would like, I like the questions that he asked and things that I feel that we as men, as people, separated from Africa here in the States, need to address and talk about. And I think this is an awesome platform to be able to do that and come together and talk and answer these questions. So I appreciate the platform and having the opportunity to talk.
Thank you, Kenzaya. Mr. Patrick Murenzi.
Yes, thank you so much. Well, I'm so glad to be here. My name is Mrenzi Patrick. Can you hear me, please?
Yes, we can hear you.
Great. Then, I am a fresh graduate from University of Rwanda in the option of clinical psychology. So, and I'm also the program director of a Lifeline organization. This is an organization that works to improve people's mental health. I mean, the community around our country and worldwide. And so, and new counselor at the Invictus Foundation. So, thank you so much. That's a big. But another thing that I'm also graduate student from the public health. I mean, from the University of the People. It's an online university. I don't know if anyone knows about it. Yeah, so I'm glad to be here and looking forward just to share more about how to improve men's living status and but also the African and American well-being. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. I just make a point of note that it appears that Americans speak very fast English. So while I know Patrick understands English very well, Virete understands English. Sometimes I personally speak fast, and they look at me and say, "Huh?" So just be cognizant of that fact when we're talking. And if I speak too fast, please remember to slow me down a little bit. Virete, we'll get back to you as soon as we walk through the last three, because we missed half of your introduction. But I'd like Mr. Malone to introduce himself as well.
Okay, we'll try to.
You're on mute. You're on mute, Daryl.
There we go. Yeah, Daryl Malone, living in Houston, Texas. I'm a software developer as well as a developer relations expert and consultant. I'm also the founder and chairman of the National Police Data Coalition in the United States. Traveled to Africa many times, mostly to Ghana, where I've been about 3 times, and engaged with different people in the business community and things like that there. As well as to Mali, where I was able to see kind of how that government has been functioning recently. This was in like 2022. So yeah.
Thank you, sir. Rasanjay, my brother, how are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Good morning, afternoon, evening. I don't know what time it is for you gentlemen, but good day. Rashawn James. I am also in the Houston area right now by way of, I've been here for about 7 years, originally from the Philadelphia, New Jersey area. Proud father of 2 kids, a boy 9 and a girl 13. Married last 12 going on 13 years. Professionally, I am in the cybersecurity field. I work with organizations that help develop and build their cybersecurity information security programs. And I've been doing that for a little over 20 years. Outside of all that, I really enjoy coming together with men, helping to develop men, helping to serve as accountability, partners with men, all things related to the growth and development of exactly what this forum here is all about. So I really applaud it, and I appreciate being tapped to be a part of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Rashawn, have you ever been to the African continent?
I have not. That is definitely on the, if you want to say, the bucket list, the life list. But yeah, that is something that I seek to do in the very near future.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Gonzag.
Moraho.
That's
That's one of our greetings here. Yes, greetings to you all. So my name's Gonzaga Limbe. I work with Dakins at Invictus, and I'm also part of the Invictus Foundation. My role is I'm a solutions architect, specifically related to IT field. I've been in this field for close to 15 years now. I'm working 15 years. So, and it's been a very interesting and challenging journey all along. And we've been able to work on very huge projects with Mr. Dakins that have really been, I'll say, special and also very beneficial to the current context here in Rwanda. So I haven't been to the Americas for now, but it is still in my bucket list too. Thank you all. I'm glad to see you all here.
Thank you, Gonzaga. Verite, Kuyabiro. We missed half of your
thank you very
introduction.
much. Thank you. So I was saying I'm Verite. I'm a medical student at the University of Rwanda, 4th year. The vice president of our Medical Students Association of Rwanda, where we do part of public health activities, awareness, like one we had with Invictus on men's mental health. And I also serve on other boards, advocating for SRHR, advocating for global surgery and stuff related to health. It's a pleasure to be here, and I know my connection can be a little bit bad because of where I'm staying, but I'm free to repeat whenever there are some problems. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. Thank you. Now, I'm obviously going to just draw some parallels between some folks here. Verite and Ricardo Johnson are both debate champions in their respective rights. You do not want to get in a debate with these guys. if we start talking technology, I can tell you Gonzag and Mr. Malone, and deep technical result. I'm sorry, but these two guys are going to cut us to pieces. Another thing is that everybody. It sounds like everybody's from Texas, but the reality is that Ricardo just migrated from the far north of Minneapolis down to Minnesota down to Texas. He's going to refuse to leave now because of the weather and some other factors. But everybody here is not a Texan. Patrick Marinzi, Chicago, yes, yeah. Patrick Marinzi has just joined the Invictus Foundation. Actually, his first day is tomorrow. He is our lead psychologist in helping people within our office and then people who come to the foundation to help, for help as well. And Kenzaya Stiles, obviously being a behavioral anthropologist, biblical anthropologist, has a keen insight on just religious norms and people's behaviors in relation to that. So I tried to bring a good cross section of individuals into the conversation so that we can have some very dynamic dialogues. Please don't allow me to confine the conversation to any specific talk track. I want to make sure that we all are getting an opportunity to share our opinions. I've had calls with both Rasanjay and Ricardo Johnson where we talked about similar issues, and I can tell you they bring some very enlightening perspectives to conversations. So I'm looking forward to it. The first question that we have on the slate is, in what ways do you feel connected to your African heritage? And there is a button on here that allows you, I believe, to raise your hand. If you would like to present an answer to that question, just raise your hand. We'll acknowledge it and give you an opportunity to speak. And anytime you want to speak further, it's in the reactions section at the bottom. It says raise hand, and you'll see a little hand come up. Okay. So again, first question, in what ways do you feel connected to your African heritage? Anyone like to pipe in on that one?
Well, I guess I can get the ball rolling. You know what I mean? With me, if you can hear me, if everybody can hear me, and then after that we can just start raising our hands, I guess. But me connecting back, going back, it was really a blessing, because working in the Air Force, working here in the States in America, you hear things, but it's nothing like seeing it for yourself. Getting on the plane, making the plans. And going back and connecting with people and talking with people on the continent. And there I was very well received. I was very well taken care of. I felt safe. I talked to a brother from what he calls the Changa tribe. I went to Tanzania, Arusha, and Zanzibar. It was a trip that made me realize how many people, just boots on the ground, people on the ground, that looked at us as Americans for opportunities, for relationship that I can actually tap into that were different from me, had different mindset, different upbringing, because we as Americans, we think a certain way, we act a certain way, and react differently. But when you get to Africa, you realize that they have a different mentality, a different, reaction and mindset. Very caring, very open, and very, I guess, non-fearing. They everything is like sure, whatever. They want to please. They want to work with you. They have a, just a work ethic and a thing to please. We as Americans were cocky. We're raised to be distant. And to take, not to take people in, and not to allow people to see our inner, what's on our mind, to kind of have a poker face. But I think, it's a little bit different there because they're really open and almost to a point to a folly. It can be easily taken advantage of or looked at as a weakness. But I found it as, something that is enjoyable, something that we should maintain and retain our innocence, if you will, a certain love. So that culture, the culture and things like that, I feel I don't want to change it. I don't want to taint it. I want to try to get to know it better and relate to the people more and the tribes more, So that the visit was very eye-opening for me and my family. I was able to bring my 2 daughters. I got 2 daughters and a wife. I've been married over 20 years. So we all got there, and it just was a blessing to be among the people.
Ricardo?
Yeah, I'm probably the oldest of the brothers here. And I will tell you that my experience over my lifetime has really been very different. Okay, yeah. So I guess I can put my hand down now. So one of the things that I would say regarding my relationship, I went to school in DC. I went to Howard for 2 years, and I graduated from George Washington. I lived with 2 Nigerian princes. Their dad was the ambassador to Paris, and their uncle was the ambassador to the United States. And that was really my first introduction to any brothers from the continent. Now, they were European, very much European. Jean-Claude and Yves were their names. And they may have been 2 of the most racist people I'd ever met in my life. I was stunned. Having been going to Howard, we were working very hard in getting the university to divest from South Africa because apartheid was still very much strangling the South African nation. And we felt real connectivity to our brothers and sisters on the continent, bleeding, literally, heart broke. And then to have these Nigerian brothers reference this tribe of Africans in North America the way they did, it devastated me, and devastated me in a way where I had very aggressive feelings about people from Africa for decades after. And I happened to go to a lecture given by a Ghanaian brother and a brother from my community inside of Chicago, and they were talking about trauma of colonialism and these other types of things, and that really just saying that whatever issue I had with me, I didn't have with them. And it really opened up my eyes. And then I began to do work with various countries around renewable energy and business opportunities. And, my experience is a little different. My interaction with many brothers and sisters from the continent is just the opposite. I did not find them naive. In fact, I found them remarkably wise. And this idea around the connection between us, very soul fulfilling. Sure, there's hustlers everywhere. I'm from the South Side of Chicago. And one of the things that I had to be very careful of is this concept around American businessmen and women coming home and the hustle that some people would come here to draw us into opportunities that weren't really opportunities. So, there's evil everywhere, but there's more grace. And in my experience, when I can connect to that, those business experiences, whether they went great or they didn't, I always felt like I came away better because of the transaction.
Interesting. Anybody have any commentary on, Ricardo brought up the point that his 2 Nigerian roommates he perceived them to be racist against specifically African Americans. And this kind of plays into the second question that we have is, how do you perceive the relationship between African descendants in Africa and those in Americas? Anybody have any additional thoughts on the perceived conflict that exists between certain African groups and African Americans?
Hey, Chris, I do want to, if I may, because we've talked about this. I thought about this a lot, so I just want to add to my statement. There's trauma that my tribe of Africans have dealt with in this nation. And what I will say to my brothers on the continent and my sisters on the continent, our people went through some shit over here. And y'all, our people over there went through some shit. And if we can understand that what connects us, our trauma, our perseverance, those kinds of things, if we can use those things as a bridge, I really believe there's real opportunity. The challenges that I had is this minimalization of what people had to go through to get from who we were when we got here to who we are now, the minimization of that, and that globally, the sacrifices that were made on this continent, the impact that that has had globally, as long as that is not minimized, that we recognize where we come from, we recognize who we come from, but that we recognize the global contributions that are made by this tribe of Africans on this continent. For me, that has been where I think connection can happen. Where I've had challenges is when people who haven't lived here begin to enjoy the freedoms that were hard fought, and then begin to think, well, why don't you do this? And you don't know what systemic racism is relative to what's going on here. You can't look at these people and without having some historical understanding of what has been put in place to effectuate that type of deal. You can't look at me in University Park or look at Daryl or look at Ken and say, well, why ain't all y'all doing that? Well, it's complicated. It's complicated. And so there is a degree of understanding and humility that is mutually required in order to achieve these things. And even if you can tell by the energy in my voice, I live a very affluent life. But when I drive past brothers on the street that are homeless, I say, that's me, that's us. And I feel that connection, and that so much of my efforts are to bridge the gap between my professional and personal existence and that brother and that sister's professional existence, because I see us as one people. For whatever reason, I was able to make it through, but that I feel no disconnection from them, nor do I feel any disconnection from my brothers and sisters on the continent.
Please, anyone? I see hands popping up now. So, Daryl, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I can just add to that. I think it's important across the entire diaspora that you don't get into this thought of feeling like you can leave part of the community behind, right? Kind of to the point that the brother just made, like, we who have been here in America, there's no place for us to go to. You know what I mean? In the same way that a person who was raised in Africa can come to America and then all of a sudden step into the opportunities there to here and the freedoms here that were hard fought for. There's not really an equivalent process that can take place for African Americans. So as a result, you see the people that are here that are left behind economically, but are still here with us physically, right? As opposed to being able to leave kind of the lower economic classes of your own country behind and then come here and look down at the people that are here. You know, the important thing is that we've all got to rise up, and there has to be an understanding that we all are one community, and we can't just look down at parts of our community because we've been able to do things that others haven't been able to do. You know, it's important that we understand that everybody's got different challenges to face, and we can certainly support those who are in our community, who are in our tribe, and help them, you know, to better themselves in the same ways that we all would like to do. And I think that's really crucial, to have that willingness to build something, to plant trees that other people are going to be able to enjoy the shade from. that is a critical element, not just here, but it also has to be done for the countries back in Africa. We won't really attain respect as a people until we are able to really see development happen, not just here in America, in Europe, but in places in Africa as well. That those places need to be developed, those people need to be brought up.
Virta, I see you have your hand up.
Thank you very much. What I can add on is that I actually agree with what the previous speakers have said, that there is that shared history of oppression and discrimination that has been going on, I think, until now. And all I can say that the relationship previously, I would say, wasn't really good compared to what it is now. So I'm here to talk about the future, that there is this trend that I see, that there is hope and positivity that we keep connecting more with, so I'm speaking from a side of Africa and Africans, that there is this trend that we keep connecting with more African Americans who are there, and there is a lot of collaboration and some initiatives that are coming up. So like the previous speaker has been saying, that in order to attain that respect anywhere, whether you're in Africa or whether you're in Europe, there needs to be development that can be seen from both ends, not in Africa only and not in Europe only, or not in USA only. So I think that brings up the part where we need to collaborate with each other, and also connect with each other more, support each other more, because at some point when you're maybe in a conference, you're from the United States and you're a Black American, and you say something, at some point they might not give you that much respect, though you're from the US, and they will try to think you're from Africa. So I view this as an opportunity to collaborate and handle this together. Yeah, thank you very much.
Sanjay.
Yeah, one of the things I could say is over the years, I've gone to college and gone to school with brothers from the continent. Had and have friends from brothers from the continent and experienced them. I've never had an experience of like a negative experience, almost like with Ricardo, what you were saying. Well, I have experienced or seen more of the tribalism between us, where it's an us and them. It's we're from the continent, we're American, which is fine. I mean, that's true. Of it is, I think it was mentioned that number one, what the brothers from the continent or the people from the continent that are afforded and able to come over here are probably from a different financial economic strata. So there is a different mindset or perception and interaction toward Black Americans. And then unfortunately, a lot of what's exported from America is not the best of us. So what's seen and what's expected of us, or what the anticipation of what we are, is a lot different than probably what we really are, because I believe we don't do a good enough job of exporting the best of us as far as African Americans is concerned. So I think a lot of bridging the gap will be forums like this, coming together and exchanging the best of us on both sides, but being able to reach the lower, I don't say the lower, but a different strata of brothers from the continent and brothers and sisters from America, to be able to show a different thing, have different experiences of one another, learn. Because, the challenge we face right now is that, like we opened up with, not a lot of us on this side get to go to the motherland and vice versa. So there's not a large enough physical interaction for us to share and exchange and experience one another. But I think now with Zoom and being able to do it digitally and come together and share ideas in a different way, I think that's really helping, and that will help to help close that divide and experience one another in a different way. That's really what I wanted to say.
Thank you. Patrick.
Thank you so much. I think the question is really great when it comes on how we perceive this relationship between the African descendant and those from America. Today, when it comes to historical background, of course, we have similar historical background when it comes to the first of slave, transatlantic things, slave things. So here we share some background between this African descendant and those from US. But of course, the relationship today will be is productive when it comes to how we perceive it today. I think the relationship is so great because my brother Chubero has said different kind of initiative that are being implementing, different impactful projects, impactful work to the community. I mean, here in Africa, when it comes to Africa, when it's about development, it's different to America. And you see different people from US organizing a kind of event. Organizing events that naturally has the aim to impact the Africans, So I'd say that this relationship today is really nice as people are now connected. People are now connected to each other, people are now connected to each other and sharing different kind of opportunities just to, everyone is proud of everyone's development, So I would say that, there is things that are not yet well established when it comes maybe to fulfill this kind of initiative. How we want this initiative that we are making in Africa, or this descendant from the America coming to Africa, helping our communities to raise, to change mind, it's great, but of course there's still a gap, but hopefully to be completed as well, because where we are now is really nice as we see different kind of impactful, as we see different impactful activities that are raising the well-being of our people and the well-being not only to Africans but also to Americans, Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. Gonzaga.
Hello again, everyone. I kind of agree with there's a point Ricardo mentioned about basically the past, and it's good that we are all aware of the past and actually consider that to be an unchangeable part of us. And we with regard to that, from that point, that's when you basically have to look forward. Now, can we actually use that past as a as a bridge to future endeavors, to bettering ourselves, to bettering our lives? And definitely this brings in everything we are having around, the discussions we're also having together. So Mr. Dawkins bringing up, actually, this is meeting on this platform is part of bridging that I would say gap. And we have all different experiences, life experiences. Of recent, I went to Poland, and when I arrived at the airport, I was actually put aside. So out of the 50, 60 people, that were all coming through the airport, then I was drawn aside. Oh, Mr. Gonza, we need to look at your passport. And I was looking around, and I'm seeing, why is the rest actually going, past me? So I can actually, it hit me hard, and that was just a single instance that I faced. So I can understand, we all have different paths through life, but I can understand those who have actually been facing this thing over and over, and lucky then are those who haven't actually faced such a thing in their lives. But it's better that we look at the past and then we bridge the future. How can we make things better? How can we improve things better? And also from our side on the African continent, what are we actually exporting to the Americas? What versions of ourselves, had it being mentioned, are we exporting to the Americas? How can we basically improve that? And that has to go through, I would say, a loop back mechanism, whereby we are able to get feedback from Ricardo, Darrell, the rest, Dakins, and the rest. So we've been having some extensive discussions with Mr. Dakins, and he has really been giving us that side of the perspective of things. So, and it's great to actually hear the same from all of you here. Thank you.
Thanks, Gonzaga. Gonzaga.
That was really good. Just piggybacking off of what he said, also, I think we have three factions that we have to look at from our past, our history. You have the Black American experience, you have the African experience on their continent, their history, and then you have the colonizers, which is in the picture somewhere. If you look at all 8 of us, we're all melanated men, and we're all affected from the past. When I went to Africa, my thing was I humbled myself to the African culture, to the African people, and looked up to them. I think there's a sort of spirit, a mindset that you have to take when you go to Africa. We were the ones, if you want to go through history, Black America, we were the ones taken out of Africa, put on the ships, our ancestors, if you will, and brought out into an element, into a nation or a world that we didn't know, and taught a language that we didn't know, and a culture and a way of life that was not ours. We were the ones that have been polluted and mind raped, if you will, and had the African continent and our culture stripped from us. So when I go to Africa, I actually feel like I need to learn. I go there with a humble heart and a humble spirit. And I think that the Africans really see that, and they start to understand my appreciation for where we come from as a people. I'm going there to learn. I'm going there to adapt and not try to fix them. I'm trying to become fixed. So when I go to Africa, there's a whole different mindset and experience of questions that I ask the African people to get to know their mindset first, because I'm trying to get rid of all this that I've been partaking from the colonizers who's basically made us believe in their wealth as if it's our wealth. They've made us feel that their education is our education. All these type of things make us in America, as Black Americans, feel like we're more better or empowered, when actually we're more enslaved or in debt, and we're more in need. The Africans got water, they got food, they got land, they got animals. They have everything they need, and it's there. The colonizers want it. Most people want what Africans already have. And Africans really, the reason why I say that they really don't understand what true wealth is. They're millionaires, and not in the dollar amount, but in land wealth, in element wealth, in mineral rights. So the Africans really don't know how wealthy they are compared to us. We don't have anything in America, So when I go there, I'm looking at how can I relate to the Africans and get my family back over here as soon as possible. And how am I going to work? Like, how am I going to find a job and get involved there in Africa to become more and more like them, like what my ancestors were, and less like Americans and less like this mentality? What is the proper blend and the proper mix? What do I need to throw away, and what do I need to bring to help, and what do I need to learn? So it's a lot of different factions and elements that I think that we have to take our cockiness, our education, and our past and our history as Black Americans, and put that and shelf it, put it to the side, put it down, and humble ourselves to the African continent and what their culture, their history. Colonizers, I think, have done a great job at putting one Black man against another Black man, one melanated person against another melanated person, in order for them to benefit. The colonizers only benefit when we fight against one another. They want to take the land, they want to take the wealth, the gold, they want to take everything out of Africa and bring it to them, to their Europe, and then exchange it for green stamps or green paper money that they print and create. And we sell our land, we sell our souls, we sell our existence, our families, and everything for green printed stamps that we call dollars, and we think that's wealth. And I think the moment we start to get off of the green money and the green stamps, out of fear of, I'm not going to eat, what does it take to raise a chicken? What does it take to cook it, pull an egg out of a nest? What does it take? Those type of things, that mentality is what we need to start the simple things of understanding, I think, is what the Africans already have. And I think I don't want to take that away from them. I don't want to disrupt that and give them dependency and enslavement that we've had and bring them under the collar. They don't want that. They don't need that, what we've been through. So that's my 2 cents,
Thank you, Kenny. Just Ricardo, you're next, but before you go, I'd like everybody to note that Ricardo was the first person who took the time to change his palm of his hand from white to Black.
Hey, yeah. I want to say what we're talking about, Rashawn, Daryl, Kenzaya, married men, fathers, so much of the success of Africans in the diaspora happened because of Black Americans being in the military. So Kenzaya, thank you for your service, and thank you for the role that servicemen and women pioneered in order for civilian African Americans to do well. And I just, Morgan Freeman just had a really powerful documentary on this Panzer division, or the tank division, in World War II, that was Black. And so again, to look at these young brothers, and I've had an opportunity to talk to Rashawn before. So, it is beautiful for me, although I'm divorced, to see these brothers that are in these healthy relationships with a wife and a husband. And there's so much of that in our community. And I think it's well said that is not always the imagery that is sent out there. But I did want to say one thing that I feel very passionately about personally. The strides that we enjoy in this nation, it literally, talking about it makes me want to cry. I will not cede the sacrifices that have been made in this continent ever. We are here. We will be on this continent forever because of the atrocities that have happened to the ancestors of my tribe on this nation. I will never leave it. Now, I am going to buy some significant land in Rwanda or Burundi or something like that because I want to be connected there too. But I want to be clear when I see Daryl or Rasan or Kenzai, I know what had to happen for them to be the men they are. I know the sacrifices that needed to happen. I know the sacrifices that somebody in their family had to make, and their family, and their family, and their family. And I'll be damned if I turn my back on that sacrifice. That will never happen. And no one that I am connected to, that has my name, my blood, the money I pay them, I will never give this nation. When we talk, when Kenzia said about culture, this is our culture now. You turn that music on, you look at these clothes, you look at what beauty is designed for. It's us. And so I want to be very clear. I cannot wait to create that connectivity. I can't wait to put these hands into African soil. I can't wait to connect myself, to reconnect myself to my past. But my past also exists here. And I am defiantly committed to ensure that when they came here, this nation would not have existed but for free labor. They stole it from indigenous and they made it work through us. And so I just want to be clear, I am never giving it back. I refuse to say they own it. I refuse to say that they design it. I refuse to acknowledge anything other than they colonized it and they now recognize that, man, we're literally losing what we stole. So now we got to use the legal system and we got to march on, we got to literally try to stop elections and election laws in Houston, literally putting together death sentences so that there's no local government, because they keep trying to change the rules and we keep persevering because that's what we're about. So I just want to make sure I'm all about going home. But home is also here.
Wow. You know, I have the benefit of having personal and private conversations with all of these brothers on this call. Now, Ricardo, you at one point said something to me that I thought was very true and profound. And I can't remember the exact quote, but it had something to do with you will get extremely wealthy. You become extremely wealthy here, but you will never, what was that? You will never.
Yeah. I don't know what you mean. I'm not sure what you're asking.
You'll never be in charge. You'll never be.
Right.
Can you share that sentiment along with what you just said?
So, you know, what I think is important to understand is I spend the majority of my time with white folks. Most of my business is done with white people professionally. Personally, I spend almost no time with white folks unless it's a woman, so occasionally. But what I will say is that what I recognize is if you were to come here, I'll go to a restaurant, I'll go to a store, Mr. Johnson, Ricardo, and it may appear from the outside that I have somehow been given a pass. There is never a moment where I believe that. Not a moment. There's not a moment where I think I'm in. And so what I recognize is why I want to buy land, and because what I want to do is just really, so I just want to let you know, I was going to buy 363 acres in Kerrville, Texas. My guy calls me, I go down there, fly into San Antonio, rent a car, drive this and the other, $6 million property, piece of land. Adjacent to a $6 million piece of land is a trailer park. And in the trailer park, there are, if you've ever been to Texas, they have these really big flags. I mean, they're like something you'd put on a ship, flags. And I'm driving to the adjacent property, and it's a huge trailer park, the poorest people you can imagine. And they have Aryan Brotherhood flags flying adjacent to the property that I'm a have. And what had occurred to me was, you know, I could buy that trailer park and have it destroyed. But the reality is that kind of positioning really says to me, if I'm going to spend $6 million, I need to spend it somewhere where the only flags are going to be flying are people who love me. And they don't. They never will. They will never love me. They will never love me. They'll get rich off of me. They'll enjoy my company or my this, that, and the other, but they will never love me. And if there's ever a conflict, they will do like oil and water. He's right there. He's right. Go get him. So I never look at my wealth or my influence or even people that I'm super tight with, this, that, and the other. If they don't look like me, they ain't with me. And I'm never believing that that's the case. And what I know is that Rashawn and Daryl and Kenzaya, they understand that truth. They know that there are the microaggressions, even around people who genuinely in their conscious mind feel like that we're cool. There's some stuff going on. That's why a dude in the United States can have 91 felony charges against him and be tied with the sitting president, because literally right now they recognize that white supremacy is in its twilight and they're doing everything they can to keep it going. So what Chris is asking is, no matter what I sound like, and I grew up on the south side of Chicago, and then my parents took us out of there, and I had to go home and fight because my cousin said I sounded like white kids. I sounded like a white kid. So I had to fight to show that I was tough. I had to do so. There's all kinds of social stuff going on, this, that, and the other. Those are challenges. And I love the point that Gonzag made about being in Poland. I used to get pulled over all the time. You know, I'm driving. Chris and I have been pulled over together, going to get some dinner. That happens all the time. Or my plates get run all the time. They see me run my plates. So, but yeah, and again, I apologize for dominating the conversation. It is. But Chris, to your question, to answer your question, I don't ever confuse the success I've had with any degree of acceptance inside of a community that was designed to keep me out. Not that I not do well, but one step further, that we not exist. So when I see Rasan and Daryl and Kenzaya, what I know is we grew out of cement. The plant that we are, they put cement there and said, okay, grow something out of that. And we did, which is again why I'm saying I ain't giving it up.
So one question that I think one would ask is there a community in Africa or someplace else that is designed to allow the orphan child, right, the African American, to actually exist as if they belong, as opposed to the system in America where you may get wealthy but you'll never be in control, right? And that's a question I think we need to be able to answer. Kenzaya, go ahead.
Yeah, in the Air Force, my time, I've seen men lose stripes. You have an existence. There's an award system and there's a punishment system. When you do good, when you do right, when you play by the rules, when you study and do everything that they want you to do, you move up. You move up. And I've learned, I've had several dogs, I've trained my dogs really well, and I had, a boxer named Tyson. And, he used to like to jump up on people and do different things, but I taught it not to bark in the house, not to jump, not to do certain things. And once I was done training it, the dog was like military. It was people who trained it. I learned how to train them. I think that, white people, if you will, certain people, colonizers, look at us, and I'm gonna just be specific, what I'm saying? Certain white people, not everybody, as different. All right. And I think they look at us as if we're something that they have to train, and that we're somebody or someone that they have to teach how to manage a society, how to manage life, how to manage land. They train us like they try to teach us in a way. And I think that there are certain elements that they know, key things that shine. And I think we know it too. That show that they broke you, that show that they made you, that show that they've turned you, that they trained you. You know, there's certain training and that certain injury that is put into your head and that mindset for success and for the element that reach that American dream, you know, and try to capture this thing. It's kind of like a man sitting on the back of a donkey with a fishing pole in his hand, with a string hanging in front of the donkey's face. We've all seen the image I'm painting, with a carrot. The man is sitting on the donkey and he holds the carrot off the pole in front of the donkey, and the donkey chasing the carrot, and it can chase the carrot for a million years without ever catching it, because the man is holding the pole, keeping the donkey moving forward. And he can pull, work, and do everything he needs to do because he's constantly biting at a carrot that he'll never reach. So, you know, we as a people in America, I feel that we're sort of that donkey that they want to ride. And I think that they're hanging this carrot in front of our face of success and unity as a conversation that they want to have. But it's really just, how do we keep these jokers in check forever, chasing this carrot? You know, I used to be in that mindset to where I felt I could reach the American dream and try to go for this American dream and try to do these certain things here in America and society. And, you know, age, you know, you only have so many years on this earth. And I made a decision that my bones will be buried in the motherland, in Africa. I'm going to die in Africa. I'm not going to die in this soil. So there's a sort of difference in opinion, in which doesn't make us, you know, different people or different, you know, just at a disagreement. But it's just how much time do we have to work? You know what I'm saying? So Ricardo, you know, you'll work in America and achieve great things because you're smarter, you know, in their system, and you understand the things that their system is built. And the average African man or black man, we have hundreds, thousands in prison, you know, that have bucked against the system. So, you know, that they're getting punished, you see. So success is kind of a mental thing that we have to look at. Are we individually chasing success, or are we as a group or as a nation or as a people, are we wanting success? I think that we as a people, I don't feel successful if I have $10 million in my bank account and my family and my brothers and sisters are being raped every day. I don't think that's success. I don't think that's great. You know, I wouldn't enjoy my $10 million. I can go out, you know, on a yacht and fly in a plane and go and enjoy and eat barbecue every day. But in the back of my mind, I know that there's people in prison for no reason. So how do we it's not a success question, I think, that we have to solve, because individually we can conquer America. We can swim in American waters. You've already shown that you are successful, that you can make it here. There's nothing left for me to prove. And I told my wife and my kids and my family that I don't have to prove nothing, you know. But what I want to do now is, there's a bigger calling, I think, in life for us as a nation or as a people. And that is the success of our people on our continent. So that's where my heart is now. And that's where I want to be there and want to work within that continent. It's not a fact of, you know, I'm going to make it work here, this or that. This is, my heart has changed. The Most High has changed my heart to want to work for my people, with my people. Yeah.
Carter?
So I just want to just say, I've never met Daryl before. I don't know. I've never seen him before. I've never met him, but I'm proud of him. I'm proud of him. I just look at him right now. I met Rashawn. I'm proud of him. I don't know their story, but what I do know is that somebody held the door open for them so that he could be who he is. And then he had to walk through it. People stopping and pulling him back, doing this, that, and the other. He had to do that. And then every day he had to continue to do that. I need to stay here because there are more Daryls out there. There are more Rassans out there. There are more Kenzayas out there. And I can't leave here given the capacity to go anywhere in the world I want to live. I can live anywhere. But when I hear his CV, I'm literally in myself. I'm like, big ups. Let's go. For real. When I hear about Verite, being on, I heard several boards. I'm like, let's go. But the deal for me is I can't, because what I know is the door we walked in, they trying to turn it into a brick wall. So there are no more Daryls. Okay, he got through. We can't legally kill him, but we can kill his vision. We can kill the path he walked on so that nobody else can walk on it. These men, fathers and husbands and businessmen, they lie. They erase the lie of who they say we are. And so for me, what I need to understand is that the fire I feel is not for me. I am comfortable, but I am uncomfortable with other people's discomfort, with other people's suffering. And nothing gives me more joy than to meet Daryl, to meet Rashawn. Nothing gives me more. We are complete strangers, and yet I'm proud as hell as him. And so I can't leave forever. I need to go to recharge and to do this, but it is my life's joy to meet Kenzaya and Daryl. It is nothing brings me more pleasure than to say to people, Ricardo Johnson isn't a unicorn. We're everywhere. I'm not different. I was just given some opportunities, married those opportunities to a family of hustlers, drug dealers. Kanye says drug dealers by Jordan, crack addicts by crack, and a white man gets paid off for all of that. And so what I'm trying to do is say, Daryl and Rashawn and Kenzaya and Ricardo and Chris, we are not monoliths. We're not unicorns. We're everywhere. We just got to be able to give people an opportunity to do that. And so I don't want to leave. I'm not dying elsewhere because while I still have breath in my body, I'm trying to replicate, duplicate, and expand versions of me.
Thank you. So here's my question. Not my question. If you acknowledge that there's a glass ceiling that exists in the Americas, where you can get extremely wealthy, but you'll never be in control, doesn't that kind of make you the carrot that Kenzaya was talking about? And Kenzaya, your last example sounded to me a lot like Michael Jordan, and the way that he lives his life, being very wealthy, having very few Black people that he elevates, and being okay with that. But back to Ricardo, are you the carrot now? So now Daryl is trying to achieve success in the field that he's in, and he sees that you've conceivably reached a very pinnacled level, but you recognize that there's a certain area that you can never get to. Is it possible that glass ceiling doesn't exist in the African communities for us? And by you staying here, you just continue to perpetuate the concept that, there is opportunity that we should keep reaching for. The other thing I would ask people to do is can anybody think of reasons why Ricardo would be more beneficial in Africa, both for himself, for Daryl, and for the African community, than he would be continuing to stay in the Americas and fight to get people to the glass ceiling?
Chris, I want to say, I think it's a false choice. I don't think that those choices are mutually exclusive. What I believe is that if I put my shoulder next to Daryl, we can break that glass and build a bridge to Africa. I don't think it has to be one or the other. I think it can be one and the other.
Okay, I'd like to hear some arguments why Ricardo should abandon, not necessarily abandon, but should devote more of his attention to the development of Africa. And I'd also like to hear the answer to the question as to whether or not you believe that glass ceiling he mentioned in America that exists for African Americans, whether or not it exists in Africa, simply because of Africans' disposition towards African Americans.
Can I say something? I just want to point
actually, let's go ahead.
Yeah, I'm gonna just point out real quick. The things and Ricardo, you know, again, this is gonna be an open conversation. I don't want to look at it like you're the focus point of this, because you're not. You know what I'm saying? I love you, brother, and I totally I've been on both sides, both ends. I play both sides. You know, I know it's a, you know, thing about that. You know, so what I was gonna say is, you know, I think that by accident or by default, you know, there's an obvious, I think, enemy to our intelligence or our relationships. But I think that what happens is our work as melanated society or as people, it gets diluted and it gets handed over, if you will, through the successful people that keep relationships. Like one of the things I almost can't let it go by is somehow you made you alluded to saying, unless it's a white woman or a white girl, white people, you have a lot of white friends and things like that. So I'm not going to say the love-hate relationship, the relationship back and forth. Like, I have white friends. I work with all white people, you know, at my company, you know. So the thing that is, it's not about a love-hate relationship or do we love you, do we hate you, do we this or that. It's kind of like if an alligator bites you and you know the history of an alligator biting you, it's not hate that you don't want to get bitten again. You know what I mean? It's not hate that you don't want to get, you know, drug out that you don't want to go into the deep water with the alligators, you know, because they that's where they reside. That's what they want to fight you on, that territory. They want to get you in the water, because as soon as you get in the water, that's where they get they have the strongest chance of taking you under and drowning you and eating you, right? On the land, they slow, you know. So my thing is, let's bring it back to our territory. Let's bring it back. Let's rewind this thing and, you know, let's make this, you know, a situation where we start to take advantage of what we have, our numbers, our people, our resources, our land, our elements, you know, in our continent. You know, this is a melanated continent, 99%, you know. And my thing I always ask people is, what do colonizers, what's their purpose over in Africa anyway? Why are they there? You know, they don't have no business over there, you know. So it's kind of like, you know, when you see these situations and these things, and let me be clear, you know, again, it's not hate. I need you to understand. Have you ever heard the word race? R-A-C-E, race. You know, and I'm a competitive man. I'm a competitive person. You know, I used to like to run a foot race, one or two in my life, you know, and beat people and show them my athleticism and my strengths. You know, I think that the word race has multiple meanings. You know, it's a competition to a certain, from one point to another point. And when you race your race and you run your race, if you will, you know, there's going to be teams and sides for the runners. You know, who are you representing in that race and who are you competing against in that race? You know, what is your lane? You know, it's a lot of representations from running a track race. You know, you represent just like Jamaica. Some people represent the USA. Some people represent, you know, Nigeria, or, you know, all these other different continents and different countries, Spain and, you know, China. We're not talking about China. We're not trying to represent China. We're not trying to represent Spain. The people I see in this call, on this conversation, we're representing Africa. That's our race. That's our lane.
If I may.
That's our people. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
If I may. First, I want to clear up what I think one of Ricardo's statements Ricardo made. In his business life, he deals with a lot of Europeans. In his personal life, he deals with very few, unless they're European women. So I just wanted to clear that statement up. The second thing is, which is the issue I'm trying to get addressed is, you said let's bring them back and fight them on our territory. Can we consider that to be our territory? We've been displaced for so long. Do the people who consider themselves to be the original indigenous people, do they consider that to be our territory? Will we get fair inclusion in that land, or will we face that same glass ceiling that we see in America? And so I'm going to open it up, and we're going to go with Veritas, and then we're going to let Daryl speak as well, because I'd like to hear some commentary from the side of Africa as well.
Thank you very much. I'll first go with what you asked right now, then go ahead with the comment about the first question you asked. I would say that we are ready to welcome you in Africa and not treat you like you've been treated, or your ancestors have been treated back then when they were in slavery. I would say myself, what I've heard from my friends and all these kind of policies I see from my country and some neighboring countries, I would say that Africa is ready to receive people. Africa is ready to receive Americans. Yeah. And back then you also asked about having Mr. Ricardo in the US, having Mr. Ricardo here, what we think is better. From my perspective of view, I would still go with his choice that it's a win. It's an even great win when we have both. We need a Mr. Ricardo who is in the US. We need a Mr. Ricardo who is in Africa, having dialect change or dialect influence in Africa. But then I will come to emphasize on what is needed right now. Africans or the people here are still facing lack of access to even basic human needs, education and health. Now, if someone is still lacking access to education, being a Mr. Ricardo in the US and being able to pick them while they can even speak English and be able to open up to the world and show what they got, then I would say that it would not be the first step to take. So I would still take the side that right now we need very many Mr. Ricardos and Chris, and here in Africa having dialect influence, having dialect initiatives working right now. And maybe in the near future, we'll need both as a win-win. Yeah, thank you very much. I would like to know what do you think too.
Yeah, and I'll kind of add to that. I feel very much the same as what you just expressed. I've spent a lot of time, traveling all over the world. I was a digital nomad for many years, working remotely and got to see different cultures and experience different cultures. But I also was able to see how shallow that can be if you don't have the time and the ability to really deeply engage with the community, right? It's not quite the same to show up somewhere, stay there for, even 5-6 months, and then leave, and then maybe you come back, a year, 2 years later, what have you. But that just doesn't compare to having a persistent and consistent presence in a place, building those deep links, understanding the society and the culture, and really getting to create those relationships and even understand where those glass ceilings or where those difficulties, those obstacles might be, where those opportunities might be. So I agree that we do need people who are going to be in whatever place is going to best suit them, right? And being able to be the best version of themselves in whatever that place might be, and being able to lift up people within that place, build those relationships, because again, that's not something that you can do from a helicopter. You really have to be there with the people who you feel you can see potential in, who you can develop, and who you can build with in order to do that effectively. So we really do need people in all of the different places where the African diaspora exists to be able to lift all of us up. And then at the same time, we need these opportunities like this one to be able to connect across all of those different, across all of those different boundaries, across all of those different countries, and understand what our common problems are, what our common challenges are, and the common strengths that we create when we come together to solve some of these things. I thought it was really just one more note. Something I thought was really interesting. There was the whole BRICS summit that went on, and two of the countries that got added there were Ethiopia and Egypt. Two countries that right now have some very serious conflicts over what's going on with the grand dam that Ethiopia is building and how that's going to affect the Nile River and all of that. And they've got real differences there. But at the same time, they're both coming into a grouping together, which to me says that there's an interest in understanding, yes, there may be differences, there may be challenges, but at the same time, there's something more important that can be accomplished when you come together and start trying to solve those. But you have to have an understanding of the place that you're coming from in order to build any real solution, right? It can't just be someone coming from, say America and saying, hey, you guys patch things up. It has to be people who are in those countries who understand those challenges and really care for the people that are there to then see what they can do together. And I think that's really what needs to happen here.
Thank you. Rashawn.
Yeah, just to speak on the earlier, the question at hand, we were, talking about what Ricardo was saying, what Kenzai was saying, as far as, I agree. I don't think that there's a either or. So I agree with Ricardo. Despite our we've been able to create something very beautiful here. We created the blues and jazz and the Harlem Renaissance and all these other things, whether it's arts and sciences and the things that we've contributed to this new place now that we would say is our home, but it doesn't mean that we've forgotten the home before that. And we have to. I think it's all about now, as we said earlier, it's bridging that gap and bringing them together. I think what usually comes up when we start having the talks of, particularly America, is we can't escape the presence of the white man, and if the point is, us exiting because we feel that, well, this is white man's land and they will always have ownership of this, or they're going to have their hands in the jar. Well, how do we escape that in the motherland? I mean, there's colonialism, so it doesn't matter if we're here, if we're there, we still face the same thing of them placing their hands or this invisible hand into the cookie jar and dividing and conquering. So it doesn't matter if we go there. Now we're different tribes, we're different countries and continents. All we are now is just separated by water, a body of water. So we're just fighting to bring that together. So, like it's been said, I think we need people on both sides. Let's not act like there aren't, we cannot act like there aren't benefits that come with, being on American soil and positives of here. And like we said, things that we've created, but then also being a part of that we can also contribute to our brothers and sisters across the water and be a part of that, and then vice versa. So I think what you're saying, Kenzai, is beautiful too, as far as wanting to rest your head on that soil, in that land, and have a physical presence and connection to that. I think there's both. And I think that the whole point of us bridging this gap and answering that, I don't think there's an either or. I think we need people on both sides and, closing that gap between the waters to look at ourselves as one people again, if there was ever a time that we saw ourselves as just one people, moving closer to that.
Thanks, Rashawn. And I think that's the point I'm trying to drive in on. Right now, we're connected. We're disconnected by more than just water. There's just this sense that we are two separate and different people. If we went back and we listened to the beginning of these conversations and introductions, what would be very obvious is that there was this sense of African culture and then our culture, right? Who we have become versus who they are and who we might have been. And there was nothing that really brought the unity that you had just mentioned at the end of your statement that recognized that there was unity. So the question is, if we were all brought into alignment and there was unity that existed and we saw ourselves as one people and we acted as one people, would there be any benefit here still? And let's not answer that now. Just go to these other questions. And at some point, we in these series of conversations, I think the ultimate objective is to get to a point where either we say, hey, look, we can build unity, we can all be in alignment, we can act as one people, and this is structurally how we would do that. And these would be the benefits for it. Or say, hey, look, we can't. We see ourselves as totally different people, culturally we're different, and there's no reconciling the rift that's been created. Veritas, I'll let you go ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much. I just wanted to add up one thing I thought when Roshan was, having that comment, is that we should be conscious that in the future we'll not have another sort of colonization, not from the white colonizer, but from the African or Black colonizers, like an African country colonizing another African country, or a Black American colonizing a certain sort of area. And that's where we need to bring up respectful collaborations. And that's where comes the point where there needs to be a sort of consortium that works from both ends. And first of all, with the first steps, trying to understand the cultural context of and cultural understanding that is ongoing in Africa, and also the myths that are here in Africa. So when you understand them better, then you don't act like you're imposing things on the people in Africa. And that's why I still support the big part that there we need people coming to Africa and having first learning from Africa, then having their impact on Africa. Then in the near future, we will need people to work from both ends, so that now we can come up and be able to speak up to even the white colonizer, like we were saying. Thank you very much. That's just what I wanted to add up. Thank you.
Thank you. Gonzague.
I think Kenzia raised his hand before me, I guess.
He did, but we're doing equitable time distribution.
Okay, thank you so much.
We'll get to Gonzague.
All right, real quick. There's something he mentioned about the alligator taking you into deep waters, because that's where it's actually comfortable, and that's why it's very powerful in actually dragging you, So with you not being able to have any chance, and there's also something we discussed. I think it was Ricardo who mentioned it. No, Chris, actually, you mentioned it, that will Africa be considered as your home when you actually come here? So I would like to provide something on that, in the sense that first of all, we need to prepare, like cultivate the land, make preparations, make that place where you want to consider home, prepare it in the sense that it's going to receive you. So, and in that case, there must be this back and forth communications, which takes me to the second point that Verito was also talking about. We actually need, there has to be something of an emancipation. People need to be really aware and conscious of why we are here. So what came to be. So, and that's a message that needs to be spread wide across this African continent. That a message that needs to be spread in the Americas, so that at least we are all on the same or close to the same wavelength, and that will also be a huge factor in actually prepping the land here and making it more I would say profitable to you people in the Americas who actually would like to come back and connect back to their home, connect back to their roots. Thank you.
Thank you. Rashawn.
Yeah, real quick, briefly, I just wanted to say, and there's more question / comment. You know, I've been involved with discussions similar to this in the past, and we talk a lot about the Americans or African Americans, Africans, and becoming one people. My question is always, number one, is that even realistic for us to look at getting to that point? And number two is to achieve advancement, is it even needed? Is it even necessary for us to be one? You know, it's like trying to say, well, before we can move forward, everyone, all 8 of us in this group have to agree on whatever the thing is. And it's like you don't really move forward like that. You take the best of each piece and you say, okay, how can we move forward with our differences? And how that factors in here is like, if you look at the beginnings of Australia, Australia didn't have beautiful beginnings in how that country was developed, but they became their own people and they work alongside of Europeans in the UK, in Europe, but they consider themselves a whole separate, they're still Europeans in a sense, but they're a different people. They don't consider themselves trying to be, we're going to be something else, but we can work together. And I think that moving forward, once we determine whatever inroads we want to move to, I don't think it comes in a form of us finally, there's no utopia where we all finally say we're one people and we're going to move like that. I think we are a new people. The African Americans are a new people. And I think it's fine if we move forward as such and build with, our brothers and sisters in the continent. That's just, my 2 cents on
it. Kenzaya.
Yeah, I understand that, and that my thing is, we coming together having these conversations, there's going to be conclusions and results that we want to get to, right? We're having these talks. Speaking of home is where the heart is. We can, our history and our past is whatever, but our kids and our children and our future is wherever we raise them. It's where they're born. It's what they know, what they learn, what they teach, so, the purpose of the conversation, we compromise, we build bridges, we want to learn, but at the end of the day, we got to understand, you got, like I said, I'm a look at it as race, a track, we have a lane, we have a thing that we have to run in, and you have a boot and you have an ant, one of them is going to win. It's always the ant that's going to want to compromise, right? It's not going to be the boot that's going to say, let's have a conversation, ant. The ant is going to lose, so the boot is not worried about it. And the thing is you say we can come together or we can't come together, or we all have to all agree. No, we don't all have to agree with each other. What we have to do is agree that there is a common enemy in our past, a common denominator of division between us in our past. That's what we agree on. See, we all can see right now, agree that we all have an oppressor or somebody that's trying to be the boot. and try to run and control and make us that carrot or that donkey, you know. And then we have to have the conversation of, okay, what do we want to live like? What is a society that we all can enjoy? What is our paradise? What is our Zion? What is our achievement? Where are we all wanting? What do we want to see? For one, we don't want to see drugs. Let's just write it down. Let's make a list what we don't want, what we do want. If we want to have a conversation and we want to get to results, it's very simple to me. You look at the past things that didn't work, and then you start to bring the things that you know that works. You know, I'm not a conversationalist. I'm a realist. You know, and I don't believe in, you know, just having blanket conversations to make myself look educated. I'm blessed by the Most High. And the thing is when we all come here and when we all have these conversations and talk, let's look at the past. They had the gall, they had the understanding to put monies together and create what they wanted, a world in which they ruled. And then to come to our continent and to bring people and put them on the Santa Maria, Pentamania, whatever ships, and bring and create a transatlantic slave trade through all their continents. That's some balls. We don't have those type of balls to even just say, hey, let's go back on our own. Let's reverse this thing. Let's take our land. Let's build our own electric companies. Let's build our own, you know, waterways. You know, and of course the past is the past, and we talk about the future. And we say, okay, we know what they did, we know what the situation is. But the thing is, still today, we are still scattered, we're still separate, and we're still given passes when we know for a fact why they are there in Africa, what they want. And we know that their society and these people can't exist and continue without our giving them our resources and us being under their boot on a regular basis. So, you know, I know we got a big heart and we love, and it's not about us all coming together and agreeing on what we're going to do. It's us all coming together and understanding that we have a common goal of what we want our society to be, how we want to live, and what is good for us that is being ignored. And I don't like us being ignored as a people. And then when you get those, you know, educated groups of men and women that say, you know, why don't we all just get along? That's the reason why, because we've tried that for 2,000 years. For a long time, we tried to get along. But there's something broken in the system. And the politics of the breakage is not being addressed. It's not about politics. It's not about conversation. It's about separation. You know, again, you hear these talks, and when people say our first 50 years coming out of slavery or being freed, we were better off as a people when we were divided and segregated as a community of on one side of the railroad tracks. The moment that we start to try to mix and create a unified, like, and be like them and them like us together, it didn't work. We lost our bus stations. We lost our, you know, our companies, our factories, our businesses. We lost our land. We lost everything the moment we tried to be with them, be mixed. And in America is a melting pot, and it is an experiment of all Indians, Asians, all Africans, Europeans. And that's the beauty of it. It's great. Let that be. But America can't reduplicate itself everywhere all over the earth and make everybody feel like they have to be Americans in order to be I guess good or right. So my thing is, let the continent of Africa be the continent of Africa. Let us develop that. That is our territory. That's our land. That's where we go for our solace. That's where we go to get ourselves together and our minds right and our families wealthy and together. They can't come over there and take our stuff. Let them have America. And you're fighting for their land. See, here's the thing, the LGBTQ, and I have an LGBTQ person I work with at work. And I said, the problem I have with LGBTQ is you want to come and rule my household and call that equal. You know, you go like he told Abraham told Lot, you go left and I'll go right. And we'll separate. You go that way, I'll go this way. But don't sit here and try to make me sit with you and be with you in the same land and follow your rules. That's not what we're going for here.
Thank you.
We have to have a place, a land, a territory, boundaries that we rule. We have to have a place. Where do we rule people? What do we control? Where's our factories? Where's our black man industries? Where's our systems? The things that we rule. Where's our ports? Where's our import-export systems?
Right.
You see what I'm saying? This is where I'm at. So that's all I'm saying.
Gotcha. Thank you. Ricardo? You're on mute.
Hey, my brothers from Africa, in the United States, we have a phrase called dog whistle. A dog whistle is something that is blown that is not perceptible to the human ear, but dogs can hear it. And so there are phrases that are said, there are things that are said that are not directly said, but the inference is one thing or the other. Of the scars and the trauma that exist here, one of the most brilliant things that the enslavers did in the United States was to separate Black people, that there are what they reference as house niggas and field niggas. Whether you separate them by intellect, education, by race, there's a talented 10, there's all of these things that are done to separate us as people. I think Chris very kindly said that Verite and I are debaters. One of the reasons why I lose very few arguments, because I don't tell you what to think. I'm telling you what I think. And what I think is what I think. What I think for me is what I think for me. I hear a lot of people talk about what I should do. I'm not telling anybody what they should do. I'm telling you what I am doing, and I'm telling you what I have done. That the truth in life is history. I hear a lot of talk about, well, okay, show me. What is your reality? What are you doing? What aren't you doing? Action begins with a plan. What is it that you can articulate? Because if you can't communicate, you can't get anybody to follow you. If you can't get anybody to follow you, then we ain't going nowhere. So this concept around one, I want to be clear that I am not representative of the best of us. I'm not. I'm not representative. When I hear a digital nomad, that's some dope ass shit for a 57-year-old to hear. I'm just telling you, I'm feeling that. Okay, I am honored to be with young brothers who love their wives and love their children. I failed in that. When I torture myself in the mistakes I've made and the decisions I've made, I don't hold myself up as a paragon of success. I present myself as a soldier with scar tissue, with victories and losses, great ones. This brother right here, Chris Darkins, has stood by me when I've won and when I've lost, and I've stood by him. And of the relationships that I have, women coming and going, friends coming and going, family coming and going, this brother and I have been attached to the hip. That is our success. But I want to be clear that this idea about who I could have been is a question I ask myself every day. And it ain't pretty. I'm not looking at myself and going, big ups to you, Ricardo. This shit that I fucked up on. So I want to be clear. You don't hear from me that I am happy and super proud of everything I've done and this, that, and the other. I'm ashamed that I got divorced. I'm ashamed of it. I'm ashamed of the decisions I've made in my life, but not all of them. And what I do know is that every day I'm trying to be better. And that what I do is I'm not going to tell Kenzaya what to do with his life, and he's not going to tell me what to do with mine. We are not a monolith. All of us represent the best of us at different times in our lives. And so there isn't a yes or a no. And this idea that there is a yes or a no is a trick that they're trying to play on us. Rashawn's question, Kenzaya's point, Chris's efforts, all of these have truth embedded in them. And those truth will resonate with everybody. And if it is our objective to, as Rashawn said, create one truth, what we are doing is limiting the beauty and diversity of the diaspora. But I want to be clear, you damn right I'm articulate. I am a conversationalist. And because of that, I move people. People do what I ask them to do, when I ask them to do it, how I ask them to do it. Why? Because I know their language. I wield their power, but it's not mine. It's not mine. And I recognize that. But I'm from the south side of Chicago. I got bottle marks here and stab marks here. I paid my dues. But recognize I am all of what I am and unapologetic about it.
Let me see. I think it's beautiful. I think.
Whoa, Kenzai, hold on.
Go. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Pause it for a moment of silence. The mic dropped. The mic dropped. Patrick, you're up.
They want that uncomfortable pause.
Patrick, you're up.
See my time, please. Can I speak?
Yes, Patrick.
Okay. Thank you so much. I've been taking long time just to hear from you. I'm sorry for I couldn't speak before. I was trying to understand the context, but I'm so emotional now. I would like just first to thank Kyrs for a big and insightful perspectives that he brought. So I want to talk about these feelings regarding disconnected from one's African heritage and believing that a better life can only be found maybe in the US or even any other continent. Well, when it comes to African, I'm young actually, and most of us in Africa, we do believe that we don't see better life here in Africa. Most of our generations, even the elder people, they feel like, okay, should I go to the United States? Should I go to Europe? Should I go to Australia? Should I go to Asia? But mostly in the United States, all we see is, we understand that the United States is like a heaven, right? So where people are in better life. So people wish to be there. And when it comes maybe to Black America, I mean, African American descendants, I haven't traveled abroad, maybe in the United States, but I've met a lot of people from there coming here to Rwanda in different conferences and different, doing several kinds of activity. So, and I feel like, okay, I'm not judging, but I'm asking myself, are they passionate to come to Africa and feel connected to their fellow Africans? I mean, they are from America. They're coming to Africa, but do you guys feel like, okay, can I speak to my my motherland people? So, this communication, this communication between us is little. It is not enough. We're not. Our communication is a bit insufficient. Is insufficient, of course. So talking about maybe relationship, we're talking about the relationship between Africa and American descendant. You know, I say, okay, things are good. But there is a big gap. There's a big gap between this communication. Say, what do we want to do? I mean, we're discussing about the future of ours. We want to have the nation, our nation. We want to have our continent. But how are we going to lead this? It's a problem if we are not connected enough. So if people are not connected enough, we can't lead, we can't go anywhere. That's a lie, I'm telling you. So this I'm asking myself, am I proud to speak to my fellow American? I mean, this is our ordinary land. This is a motherland. I say, okay. He said, Kenze says, okay, we need common understanding things in the same path so that we lead this journey to the end. I don't know how we're gonna make it, but it's really critical. It's really critical. Coming together is good. Having conferences good, but do you guys come in Africa or come to America and we are done with the rest, then we'll go. Why? Yeah, coming together is great, but we should see something that would last, and that would impact this relationship we're talking about. So we see, maybe I believe in it. If you're passionate about, we are talking about this, it's really nice, but what way forward? I think the better, of course, the better is to come, but really this is a critical point that we need to raise, we need to work on, we need to be passionate about. And so we see that this strong bond would work. We came together, we put hands together just to make sure that we are connected, we are building something impactful for our future and for the future of the generation to come. So thank you so much, Kenze, for the great insight. I'm so thankful to hear from you and from the others as well.
Thank you, Patrick. Gonzaga.
I'll be brief. I'll be brief. So two things. I believe in sharpening my saw before I decide to cut down a tree. And I think this is part of it. This is part of getting to know everyone else's life experiences and all that. And I also believe, which is my second point, and I also believe that the good things take time. The good things basically go with the rules of nature. Things that are going to be reliable, things that are going to be sustainable, they always go with the laws of nature. And I don't believe in fast, hurried things. I actually believe in going specifically with the right mindset and a clear vision of where we're going. So to me, this is a great platform. It's my first time I've joined. Probably you guys have been having other meetings, I don't know. But I believe in those two things. So it's good that at least there's a first step we are taking. Thank you.
Thank you. Veritas, did you drop your hand?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, to refute on what Murenzi was saying, that at some point, we do not need to agree with each other on everything. We just need to have common ground. So it's better when people agree on everything, but it's not always that case. And when it's not always that case, but you have the same goal, then you can be able to reach at that goal via different routes. Like Kenzai was saying, that we first need to find a common goal, common ground, common cause. We need to agree on that cause. And then we can try to put hands together. But when that is not possible, Mulenzo was saying that some people come here and then go, and yeah. So I just wanted to remind us about this, that at some point we might not find it viable to work it together, but then when we're off to the common cause, then that's the first thing that we need to find out. Thank you.
Thank you. We're getting close to the end time. So Ken Zaire is going to speak his last comment, and then we're going to have a brief discussion on next steps, and then everybody will get a chance to speak for 60 seconds as a closeout. Go ahead, Ken Zaire.
All right. I just want to put it like a little end cap on this. You know, the thing that I'm writing down, and just like I said, I'm results driven. So I'm looking at it like government. You know, who's governing? Who's governing the land? Government. So as melanated people on the continent, you know, I'm looking at our understanding of government. Who's controlling our resources of the land? Who's controlling the resources of the land? The passport, the elements, the trades, the food, GMO foods. What are GMO foods? Do we want to eat GMO foods? Did y'all know peaches, apples, oranges, bananas, all the fruits are free? Did y'all know water is free? Things that were naturally given to us that we understand are free, now governments control and they run it for profit. So we can agree that apples are free. Apples should be free. If you have an apple tree and you have apple seeds, you know, we can agree that water should be free. We can agree, you know, the children should not be predicated and be predated upon by men or gay or having sex changes early. You know, all these type of topics and things that are being pressed upon our community and our people, issue by issue, line for line. I think that we're going to find common ground and common understanding of what actionable things that we should be in charge of as men. If we are men, if we are kings, if we are men, if we are over our land, we have to be the ones making those final decisions as a people, not letting other people make those decisions for us, or else we are babies. You know, and people look at us Africans and melanated men and people as babies, as if we can't think for ourselves, and if they got to press upon and control our waterways, our land, our apples, our food resources. You know, you can ask the several Africans and you ask them, well, where are your lambs? Who owns the lambs? You know, we all eat lamb meat. We don't have lamb. It's like, we used to have fields of lamb. We used to have cattle. We used to have sheep herders, goat herders. They've taken those natural things away from us. Like if you go out in our community right now in America, they have subdivisions where you're not allowed to have free range chickens. You got to go to Tyson Chicken to buy your chicken. That's manipulative. So we are so used to going to box stores and buying all of our food that we eating all these GMO old foods that's been in the freezer and processed meats and things like that, which is giving us diabetes and, you know, all these type of ailments and things come upon our people because we are not in control of our society. These are the points that we should be talking about. And if we can't get control of those things and agree that we should be in control of our health, if we can't agree that we should be in control of our wealth, if we can't agree that we should be in control of our children and our families, then I think we can't agree on that. I'm sorry. It's just, there's points that we definitely should be agreeing on. So there's things that, of course, we're not going to all agree on falsehoods or things that are insolvable or irresolvable. But we can all agree that we shouldn't be slaves. We should all agree that we shouldn't be, predicated upon. African is being the reason why America seems so great is because America steals and takes resources from Africa. They're importing or exporting their resources out of the land and keeping the people down for the success of America. America is only great because it's taking the power from the African people and land. So
about 15 seconds.
Yeah. So anyway, I can go on for days. So, let's fix the mentality that we have and understand the facts of the truth that our people in our land have been rolled. We've been they're riding us. They're riding us to their success. So that's where I am with it.
Thank you. Thank you. So as I'll remind you that the name of this show is It's a Man's World, whatever that means. And this is more than just a show. This is a working group. Obviously invited you all on because I believe you can add some value to the conversations and help us drive toward solutions. I know that you are all men of action. I'd like to thank you for contributing. And, this is something that is going to continue. Same time next week. If you're in a position to participate, I would welcome you to participate. We are eventually going to begin doing these live and open it up to an audience, and you gentlemen will be panelists on this dialogue. And at some point, we'll be opening it up to the questions from the audience that joins the call. To close out this evening's discussion, I'm trying to identify some action items, some things that we can start doing in order to bring us closer together on the ultimate objective, which is create some level of cultural connectivity, some unity, some alignment if it's possible, and determine how we quit talking about the oppressor and start talking about transforming our culture and our communities into a global force that has an impact where we don't have to ask anybody for anything. So I'm going to give each of you 60 seconds to, have any closing comments that you have. If you have any thoughts on specific action items that we should be taking up between now and the next call, please state them. If you don't want to take your time and waste it on giving those statements, please send them to me. I'd also like to ask that after the call, you all fill out the questions, the answers to the 10 questions that were submitted. That will be helpful in me kind of formulating some discussion points as well as action items for the next meeting. So if you raise your hands, we'll go one by one. Whoever hands up first, we'll go in that line. Oh, Ricardo, he has that quick action button. You're first, my brother.
On mute.
What I'd love to be able to do is I'd love to hear Kenzaya, Rashawn, and Daryl, if they are first-generation college graduates, if their parents were first-generation college graduates. I'd love to be able to take that time and the thing to be able to say, and then I'd like to be able to understand educationally how for Verite, for Gonzaga, and for Patrick, the role education played in our lives. I'd love to be able to understand that. What I will say in the little bit of time is something that all three, Gonzaga, Patrick, and Verite said that I'm really interested in is, where are the opportunities? How can I help? Teach me what resources that I have that can be deployed in the most impactful way. I'm humbled by that opportunity, but I will push back at my brother, Kenzaya. America's great because I'm here, because he's here, because Daryl's here, because Rashawn is here. This was impossible, and we made possible out of impossible. So I do want to say this idea around the rejection of this or the rejection of that, what I want to be able to do is to talk about what are the opportunities? What have we learned? What have we learned in this thing that Chris said so impactful about who we were, who we are, and who we could have been? I love that concept. I love this idea. I actually, if I would write a book, it's called The Invitation, because I believe that that's how you, if I can be invited to how I can impact a community that I'm connected to in Africa, if I can send an invitation on how you young brothers can educate me, and I mean young brothers, all of you, and educating me on how we can do better. My focus, my energy, and my time is in being a servant to you and to be a partner for you, a soldier for you, to be able to be an outpost of what has been so that you all can be an outpost on what can be. That is what my interest is in this forum. And I really am grateful, Chris, for you inviting me. I think that's under 60 seconds.
No one's really keeping count. Thank you, Ricardo. Rasan.
Yes, again, I just want to thank you, Chris, for putting this forum together and this panel of great men. Awesome conversation. I hope we carry it forward. One of the things, I know we had a lot of questions and topics on hand that we didn't get to. One of the things I would say is probably an area that really needs attention to keep this going, and maybe a place to start is the digital divide, closing that digital divide. And from, any of those who don't know or haven't heard that term, that is the gap that exists between people who have access to digital technology and those that don't. I mean, we are in a digital age right now. To be able to do things like this, to be able to, whether we're talking about learning, we're talking about sharing, we're talking about collaborating, we're talking about economic development. I mean, all of that goes into the realm of needing and requiring digital technology. And I believe that is an area that should be right up there as far as a priority and high on the list, because that ensures that we're able to get information to the widest range of people possible. Again, great conversation. I hope we carry it forward. Just want to throw that out there as something to think about, and really for us to kind of carry forward and maybe add that as an initiative to think about.
Thank you. Excellent point. I always tell people that the ability to communicate digitally is as important as public roadways. If you're paving streets, you should be paving infrastructure for us to be able to connect and share information and knowledge.
Yes.
Daryl.
I'll add to the thanks for putting this group together. To answer your question, Ricardo, I'm actually self-taught, so all of my education was kind of discovered on my own. To the point of action items, I think one of the best experiences that I had traveling to Africa was when I was able to go to Kumasi and spend some time with some of the people there that were in the tech scene and coming from the university area there. So I think a similar exchange, especially since we've kind of got a little bit of a center of gravity here with Houston and Texas and Kigali and Kenya, would be some sort of exchange between our two groups of capacity for either a group of us to go over to Kigali and get involved in the university scene there. I'm also connected with the Impact Hub. I know there's one there in Kenya as well. Some of those links, those opportunities to really start to build those relationships, I think would be extremely fruitful and would really pay dividends, for time to come. So that would be my one action item suggestion there.
Thank you. Kenny Nzaya.
Yeah, I went to the Community College of the Air Force, CCAF. I was a first generation. You know, my mom and dad, you know, they didn't go to high school and make it through high school, you know, but I learned a lot from them, you know, either way, you know. So one of the things I think is I'm looking for, you know, is like Black man industries. You know, I'm looking for us to look at the industries that's around in our environment that we as a panel or a people, as we come together and bring more people to the table, let's identify the industries. Let's identify the top 5, 10, 15 industries. Like you said, internet, you know, if the internet is dropping, why can't we fix it? You know, if, you know, we need water, you know, I'm always going to talk about water and trash and all the basic resources and things that we know make a society great, you know. So let's look at those industries and things that we can do to work in within those industries as a community and as a people. Okay, those are practical things, boots on the ground, that we can get involved with and actually make a difference and an impact. So the edge. So that's that. There's always going to be my last thing is there's always going to be a dividing line, I believe, between America versus Africa. And I think that again, it's never going to get old. The analogy between race, and you're gonna always have a if I eat, you're gonna starve, or if I turn on my lights, you're gonna be in the dark, or if you turn on your lights, I'm gonna be in the dark. It's from one side, from one side. And I know we as a people saying that can't be right. That can't be. We're all thinking right now in our mind like it can't be right. But let's do our research on that. If somebody's eating your food, you're not eating it, right? So let's start doing research on who's benefiting from what, and by that benefit, who's going to suffer from your benefit. So when you go home and you get great air condition, and when you live with all this wealth and these things, at whose expense? Let's have that conversation, you know, because if it's the conversation of everybody at the table can all eat and we can all be wealthy and we can all be successful, then that's the conversation that we need to be finding. But if there's somebody who's going to suffer, we need to find out who. We all understand that the shape that I'm formulating, the mindset that I'm formulating. There's if there's going to be a big I and a little U and whatnot, we need to understand who is the little U and why is the little U there a little U. And if we can make that little U bigger, because everybody that's enjoying luxuries in life, they're never going to want to look back and say, oh, all the people I stepped on, thank you. You right? So that's my point. That's what I want to say, you know.
All right. Thank you. Kenzaya. Veritas.
Thank you very much. I would like to say that my dad didn't go through high school, but my mom managed to go through university and become a nurse. So she's an undergraduate nurse specialist. But I've seen them fighting for me to get into school and get through school. However much at some point I felt it was not important because my dad was able to provide for the family while he didn't go to school. But I'll say that education has helped me along to reach where I am and to be able to connect to the world, not just Rwanda. Yeah, then I would come back to the show. I really enjoyed being here. And one of the key actions I've saw that Chris has already thought about it.
Digital infrastructure, closing the digital divide. And he was just about to say something very important.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
Can you hear me, guys?
We didn't hear a word you said
sure,
after
I was saying that about the show. I really enjoyed it, and I think what I was going to say, you've already thought about it, and it's to open up this to the audience so that people can really hear about this, and even if they're not able to speak up, even if all their questions cannot be answered within an hour-long session, but they get to know and share the experience, and they can still reach out in the DMs after. So opening it up to the audience is fine, and I can also volunteer making up a short survey where we can all fill it and look upon what can we do to improve the show and what are the topics that we think that need to be covered in the upcoming sessions, and what are even other speakers that we think can be of great contribution to this show. And I also liked that Chris said this cannot only be a show, but it can be also a technical working team, where what's said is not to stay in the recording, but also to be put into implementation. And I also liked how Ricardo asked what they can do to help. From my short experience is that Kigali is doing great, Rwanda is still struggling. So I'm not sure about other perspectives from other countries, but if you were to do something that was really very impactful and you don't want to just be in the news that you have done this. If you want to be in the news, then the right place is Kigali. But if you want to make real impact where it's needed, it's to go to the rulers. And I'll still be happy to reach out and share more of proposals of what can be done if you have time for that.
I would just to answer, I absolutely, and my business ethos is be in heaven 3 days before the devil knows you're dead. So I have no desire to be in the news. None.
Okay.
None.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, sure. Yeah, sure. I was saying that we can always turn this over into a technical team where after a discussion, some people who have time, I can volunteer on that, can take time to design implementable projects where we can come up with a proposal. But maybe by the end of every 3 months, where we can, put up together different proposals on what can be done actively and directly. Yeah, those were my inputs. Yeah, thank you very much.
Love that.
Veritas, I think we're all in agreement that we should move on your suggestions. And if you have some things you want to put together, let's put them together. I love the statement that you just made. Kigali is doing great, but Rwanda is struggling. I've had a tough time articulating the distinction between the Kigali city area and the rural areas, because there is definitely some disparities between the two. And when you see Kigali, you think, oh, Rwanda's it's a booming country. But this is a small center of population for the country itself, and which is another conversation. You see a lot of urbanization, which I think is detrimental to any type of cultural or economic growth of any country. But anyway, we'll get on that in the future. Gonzag.
Thank you. I hope I make it under 90 seconds, right?
Yo, you just kicked it out another 30 seconds.
No. So anyway, I would like to say two things. First is one answer to what Kenzaya was saying is I like the way he structured it, in the sense that we need to know who is controlling which resources and how can we actually regain them, sort of like being masters of our own destinies. So, and I think it all begins by looking at things in a holistic perspective, in the sense that it's an ugly world out there. And we have all these superpowers and global powers pulling strings left and right. And it's essential that we know our strengths. We know our strength, and we target the opportunities that will actually propel us to such goals, and basically achieving this vision of creating that gap between Africa and the Americas, but in this case, in a win-to-win scenario. And secondly, Ricardo asked, how can I serve and how can I invest to make the most impact? I like the statement, you'll have to be in heaven for 3 days before the devil knows that. That's quite good. I'll copy that for information. So I think the best way is what you will do, how to serve or where to serve. I kind of zoom in into it in the sense that you basically need to touch the heart. You need to touch the heart of the people, and that brings in a lot of context and a lot of components, in the sense that it also touches the part where we discussed about preparing the home, so that you're feeling at home in America, but also feeling at home in Africa. It's all about touching the heart. And I was thinking about two things, basically, in the sense of bringing opportunities, but mostly as a long-term thing, because whatever short-term solutions we may get to all these things will sort of like be trying to stop the hemorrhage. But now, when you look far, it's all about the best way will be through education, being able to use the digital, bridging the digital gaps and being able to provide education. And when I mean education, I've usually have such discussions with Chris. It's all about not the formal education that we know all about, but the history. I'd like to touch on that history, but also practical skills and the kind of practical skills that help you to think out of the box, that help you to implement solutions that are cost effective, but again, that really touch the heart, as you are saying. And then something else that will also be real quick, I'll try to broaden the field discussions. It's education, and then the other one is trade. So when you have when you have exports from here, especially in Africa, and you have exports on a market to the Americas, and you have these people here in Africa actually gaining that income, then you are still touching the heart, and you are holding on to that to the long-term vision of actually creating that home. Thank you.
Thank you, Gonzaga. That was excellent. Touching the heart of the people is something that we lose sight of, is that we're people with feelings, emotions, we have sensitivities, we connect to people based upon how they relate to us. Thank you for bringing that up. Patrick.
Yes, thank you so much. I would first appreciate your time and organizing this amazing meeting. So I would like just to proceeding. I would like to lay for you this quote. Are you getting me, please?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, nice. So it reads that there is no better place than home. Reflects the sentiment that one's own home, with its familiarity, comfort, and personal connections, is often the most cherished and desirable place to be. It highlights the emotional and psychological attachment people have to their homes, where they feel a sense of belonging, security, and contentment. Home is not just a physical space, but also a symbol of comfort and refuge, making it special and irreplaceable part of people's lives. Why am I talking about this? There is no better place than your own home. I'm talking about Africa. How? I'm sorry, this topic it's my first time to talk about it. That's why I feel like I've lost a lot so far. And I feel maybe my colleagues, I mean, my fellow young people, and even the elder one, and the kids need to hear about this. We need to go, globalize this, because we have African who are just not even in America only, in the Europe, in Asia, in Australia. And most of them, they're not even able to come. They don't want to come to Africa again. Why? So I would say that I would request, it's actually requesting that these conversations that raises our emotions, that raises our spirit of realizing how important is our land, how important is our continent, and how important is to come together just to build something strong, to build the big bond for the better future of ours and of our families. I would love that these conversations should just distributed to the fellow Africans. I mean, not only us from Africa, but all the people across the world. I mean, those who are ordinarily from Africa, right? And I believe as we come together, we can just build something strong. Another thing, just this one. You know, young people today, we're facing a lot of problems. We're facing a lot of, when it comes to mental health issues, it's another perspective, especially here in Africa. We're facing addiction, we're facing depression, we're facing anxiety. And when it comes to seeking mental health services, there's no one who is able to seek help. You know, and Africa, young people are the one whom we consider that they're going to be leading Africa in the next years to come. So this should be also directed to our kids, to those who are still kids. So, like, we need to make them feel comfortable. You can't go to take drugs, to take things that are maybe, okay, it's psychological. I'm not judging them. I'm a psychologist, but they need help. We can also have these initiatives like Invictus is doing, impacting these young people just to realize back, to realize their strength, and to realize how important are they to their countries and to the continent, to our continent here. Thank you so much. I'll take a lot, but I appreciate you now. God bless you.
Thank you, Patrick. Thank you. I think it was Ricardo who first used the word trauma. It is clear that we have experienced trauma throughout the generations, both in the Americas as well as on the continent here. And I think it was more credit to Ricardo. It was him who once gave me the analysis of what calluses do. Calluses form on the skin to protect it from future damage, to harden it. And I think that, what this trauma has caused is for us to create calluses on different parts of our culture and our identity in order to protect it. And when we look at, our collective communities, individual and collectively, we see that we have some assets and we have some liabilities. And I think what we all agree in this conversation is that we need to figure out how we merge our balance sheets together so that we have a very strong asset base, and hopefully the assets from there can counter the liabilities that we have here, and the assets from there can counter the liabilities they have there. And we can develop one strong balance sheet for the global African. Once again, I'd like to thank you all for participating in this call. As the name of the show is, it's a man's world, whatever that means. And the thing that we need to do now is define that, what that means. Thank you again. I look forward to seeing you all again next week.
Thank you for watching It's a Man's World, whatever that is. We had an engaging discussion today, and we came away with some action items, some things that we need to get done as global Africans in order to make a more prosperous and stable Africa. I'll see you on next week's episode.